it, and it's going to be a small choir. So on the 27th, I requested Piper Hall, because I said if we do it in here, I said your girls are going to be by themselves because most of us are going to be pushed out into the hallway. So on the 27th, please tell everybody I'm trying to get the information out as quickly as I can. You'll probably get a little note email, and there is something in the bulletin that said that I did approach them on it, but I didn't get a confirmation. Well, I got a confirmation.
What's the name of the group, Steve?
Team Challenge.
Team Challenge?
Team Challenge. You probably encounter them when you come out of the grocery store sometimes. They're selling tickets to their pancake breakfasts, or they have a variety of functions they do. They do a really good program. And those girls get turned around and they get their lives straight. And every time I've had anything to do with them, I've worked with a lot of programs. In fact, for a while there in the late 80s, early 90s, that was what I was doing, was drug and alcohol counseling in Santa Barbara. And you see a lot of programs, because what I was involved with was helping people to get into programs. And I had to counsel them and do their entry evaluation. And you see a lot of people get into programs, and you see a lot of people fail, and you see a lot of poor programs out there. And at one time, the federal government was dumping a lot of money into these programs. And it's really sad, because the programs that really work more often than not is the Christian ones. And they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that these Christian programs are the ones that really work. And it's because these people have hit bottom. You know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous? You got to hit bottom first, and then you will get into something that will pick you back up. Well, when you hit bottom, if there's a foundation there that can give your life meaning, like Christianity, you've got a ramp to launch yourself again. But if you just hit bottom and someone says, okay, the government's here to help you. What? Do what? The government can't take care of itself. You know, what do you mean, take care of me? No, you don't need that. You need to move them over onto a foundation. God's foundation, Christianity. And it will pick them up and give them meaning to their lives. And I've seen this happen with Teen Challenge, and it's been a real blessing to be associated with them. So it's going to be real exciting to see what they have for us on the 27th. So please tell everybody, and hopefully we'll have a nice turnout.
That's February.
Yes.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, so we're working through. Back up here a little bit. Here. Let's talk about idols again. They know nothing, they understand nothing, and their eyes are plastered over so they cannot see, and their minds closed so they cannot understand. The idols are unable to know or discern anything. They are blind to God's moral requirements, like people who worship them. Should almost be the other way around. It would work both ways, wouldn't it? But this is a reference to Isaiah 6:9-10. They have not known nor understood. So they are stupid, ignorant, and blind. Nothing could be more striking, could strikingly show their ignorance and stupidity than this idol worship. It should show it to everyone. It doesn't, though, does it? It just changes form. No one stops to think. In fact, you notice how popular it is to see people with Buddhas in their house? See all this Eastern art, these Eastern statues.
The front yard sometimes.
The what?
Front yard in our area.
Oh yeah, it's amazing to me. I mean, they can be tranquil, but usually what it is the water that makes the thing tranquil. They got a
Fountain.
fountain or something going on. My wife has this thing she bought from QVC that it's a fountain that reacts to the sun. So the sunlight hits the photocell that charges an internal battery. And once there's enough electricity, the fountain comes on.
Koi
frog
fish.
worship.
Now you need koi fish.
Yeah, no frog worship there. The awful truth was that the people were worshiping objects made from God's creation instead of the Creator himself. And how many times have we heard this over and over and over again? Wouldn't that be something to actually get to heaven and God saying, you could actually overhear God saying to somebody, this is how many times I've told you. Yeah, thousands of times. I mean, even in our own life, you can see this. And how long did it take before you became a Christian? How old were you before you became a Christian?
In my 20s, I was always exposed all the way through my life because my folks
That doesn't
took me
count.
to church.
That doesn't count.
No, I didn't know I was a Christian until I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Now, if you have to, when you come before God and He said, and you ask Him that question, how many times did you have to tell me, give me examples and tell me in my life that you need to turn to me? Can you even imagine how many times it would be? It's beyond imagination, really, because there's so many things that occur in our life that are examples and pointers to turn your life over to Him.
Some of us are just thick-headed, that's all, just like the Israelites.
No one stops to think, no one has the intelligence or the understanding to say half of it is I used for wood, and referring back to the carpenter with the chunk of wood. Half of it I used for fuel. I even baked bread over its coals. I roasted meat, and I ate. Shall I make a detestable thing from what is left? Shall I bow down to a block of wood? The idolater picks up the figurine in his hand, holding it, but in reality, it holds him. It holds him. He is in bondage to the lie. Remember when I had Annette hold the statue? She was holding the statue. While she's holding the statue, it had hold of her. The awful truth was that people were worshiping objects made from God's creation instead of the Creator Himself. Worshiping. They know nothing, they understand nothing, their eyes are flashing in the wrong way. Such a person feeds on ashes. A deluded heart misleads them. He cannot save himself or say, is not this thing in my right hand a lie? You know, there are monks that, you've heard of a variety of monks. There's flagellants and all kinds of things that they do to try and separate themselves from the rest of the world. Sometimes they'll not eat, and sometimes they'll sleep on hard stone, or sometimes they'll
Bed of nails?
not to actually go that far. I think that's Hindus. But they'll do a variety of things to separate themselves from the world. And the idea is to be closer to Christ, and the idea is to not be misled by things in the world. Well, there are some monks, and this is more in the Middle Ages, I haven't heard of it in modern times, but some monks will actually sprinkle ashes on their food to mask the flavor of the food. Now, I can't imagine that the food of a monk would be that tasty anyways. Most of the time, like a porridge or a soup or something like that. Maybe a little mutton if they're lucky. But with a salt and pepper would be the only spices. But anyways, it just made me think when I was reading this piece of scripture, I wonder if they actually thought of that, putting ashes on their food from this piece of scripture.
You can try ashes next week, I don't think we're coming.
No,
I'm just kidding.
He's
But-
coming out of his shell over there.
Such a person feeds on ashes. A deluded heart misleads him. I mean, this is actually saying that it is wrong. He cannot save himself or say, is not this thing in my right hand alive, seeing ashes instead of falling? And only one who is deluded would do so. So it is with the worshiper of an idol. The person is deluded. Compare the two banquets in Proverbs 9:1-6 and 13:18. Let us compare these two banquets.
You want that read, Steve?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We got a couple of volunteers here for 1-6 and 13-18.
Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn out its 7 pillars. She was prepared her meal and mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her maids, and she calls from the highest point of the city. Let all who are simple come in here. She says to those who lack judgment, come eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and you will live. Walk in the way of understanding. Whoever corrects, what's that, am I doing wrong? Oh, 6.
Six.
6, that's the end of it.
Okay, who was she?
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Wisdom. She was wisdom, then she would know the difference between who to worship and who not to worship, correct? Okay. What's the other one say?
Verse 13.
Yes, sir.
The woman's folly is loud. She is undisciplined and without knowledge. She sits at the door of her house, on a seat at the highest point of the city, calling out to those who pass by, who go straight on their way. Let all who are simple come in here. She says to those who lack judgment, stolen water is sweet, food eaten in secret is delicious. But little do they know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of the grave.
And who is she?
Folly.
Folly. Remember these things, Jacob, for you, Israel, are my servant. I have made you. You are my servant, Israel. I will not forget you. Now, when you read this, remember, Jacob is who?
Israel.
Well, Jacob is the one who didn't know God. He is, you could call him the sinner, or the one without insight to God. And this one, you can kind of look at this as ourselves, that before we knew Christ, we wandered in the wilderness. My friend always used to say that. I used to wander in the wilderness. He's always referring before he became a Christian. This one, after he knows God.
The chosen one.
Right. After he knows God. His relationship with God. He's chosen. Christian. No. Because I'm saying these things and moving the metaphor out, it still applies, but it's being moved out. I'm saying Israel is the Christian. You can look at it that way. It doesn't mean that what they're saying here is remember these things, Jacob, for you Christians. It doesn't mean that specifically, but it means those who have a relationship with God, right? That's why it can be moved out that way. I'm giving you those examples. And that's why the same thing with Jacob, sinner, before he knew God. That's the multi-dimensional nature of Isaiah. If you look at it carefully, you can see those things, but you got to keep the context proper. If I just read it like that to somebody, my Jewish friend was sitting over here, and I just read it like that and said Christian there, he'd probably come flying out of that seat. But the idea is there if you keep the proper context, what God is trying to say. Remember these things, Jacob. For you, Israel, are my servant. I have made you. You are my servant.